for a lot of the time, it is setting that bar too high in terms of wanting to sort of text constantly. Like I find with some guys, they almost love bomb me at the beginning, like shower me with compliments, want to talk all day, and then, as I said, I'm happy not texting all day every day. It works better for me if I'm not. And then when those standards start to drop, when I hear from him less and less and less, that's I'm like, oh, okay, it's starting to shift a bit.
Right.
Like if you're not going to keep up with your own standards that you set for yourself, don't set them that high.
So does it start to drop off like as you're leading up to the first date, like after the first month that you've been dating?
To be fair, leading up to the first date, say we met on a dating app, I think I have no problem with that because there's only so much small talk you can carry, like, especially like if you're doing a date like a week in advance or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, as I say, you don't need to be talking day to day because it's probably, if you're going to be working every day, there's not going to be much change in what you're doing.
Yeah.
But I think a few dates down the line, that's when it kind of starts to fizzle out. And that's when I'm like, oh, okay, actually.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a personal question.
Go.
Have you slept with them at that point?
Have I slept with them at this point?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. That's probably why.
Okay, right. So is this still the standard then, that if you were to just sleep with them? Because I feel like with some relationships, I feel like I'm in the position like, why, maybe this is controversial to say, but
go for it.
If you are into a guy, you really like them, you are gelling really well.
Yep.
Should you then have to wait to then sleep with them just because you like them? Because I feel like there were some relationships where you can sleep with a guy and it still does work and you still want to keep up the effort and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I'm going to be completely real with you. When you're, as a woman, you are the gatekeeper for physical intimacy, right? The guy's a gatekeeper for commitment and emotional intimacy.
That's blown my mind, actually.
Yeah.
Saying it like that.
So what I mean is, usually when a guy and girl have sex, it's because she said yes. But when a guy and girl get into a relationship, into a commitment, it's because he said yes.
Yeah.
Right? So with that power comes responsibility. And it serves you as the woman to pace the physical side of things because you need to allow the space where he can emotionally connect with you before you like go all the way physically intimate. So the example I always give is this, right? Imagine you want to go to cinema to watch a film. Now, obviously, when you go to cinema to watch a film, usually they show trailers at the beginning, right, of other different films. You watch a film and then you go home. If I ask you, if they showed the trailers of other films after the film that you went to see, would anyone go watch them? Would anyone see these trailers?
No.
Why not?
Well, because the film's done.
Exactly. Because what happens is you go to the cinema, you see a trailer of a film that you really like, you go, oh, when that comes out, I'm going to come back and watch it. I'm going to reinvest, right? But of course, people aren't going to stay to watch the trailers of other films once they've already watched the film that they actually want.
Yeah.
And that's the same with the physical intimacy and the emotional intimacy for a guy. He's going to the cinema to watch this film, to be physically intimate with you. He's taking an interest in you because he's physically attracted to you. But you need to provide the space for him to see the trailers. Because at the moment, you saying, oh, well, we're physically intimate, but now he's like dropping off. He's not emotionally connected to me. I don't know why. Is like the cinema saying, hey, why aren't people staying to watch the trailers of the film after they've watched the film?
Yeah.
Because this is why, because here's the thing, we are most engaged in the moments prior to getting what we want. So that's why important announcements always happen before the match starts, not after.
Yeah.
This is why the supporting act always goes on before the main act.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's when we're the most engaged. So as the woman, when it comes to the physical intimacy side, providing that space is what's going to serve you in terms of his actual commitment and emotional investment in you. Because the thing is, guys, have you ever heard of like post-nut clarity?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think that is?
It's basically when a guy has slept with you and then he'll then decide whether actually you're wifey or he's not actually into you, sort of thing.
Yeah. So I call it lust goggles. right? Lust.
Lust goggles.
You know when we have
okay.
like beer goggles,
Yeah,
right?
lust goggles, right.
I call them lust goggles. Yeah. So beer goggles is like, you know, you get drunk, you sleep with someone, and then you're sober, but beer goggles come off, and you're like, whoa, if I had known, I probably wouldn't have gone there.
Yeah.
Right. So before a guy is physically intimate with you, he has his lust goggles on.
Okay.
Once you guys have slept together, the lust goggles come off, and he goes, oh, do I like her? Or was I just physically attracted to her?
Yeah.
And a big part of him going, oh no, I really like her, is having a level of emotional intimacy before that moment. And that's not saying like you have to be like, oh, we're so in love and now we're going to sleep together. But
Yeah.
sleeping with a guy very quickly when you haven't provided that space doesn't serve if you want long-term commitment and emotional investment from him. Does that make sense?
Perfect sense. Yeah.
Especially because if I'm being honest as well, that's for guys, that's an attractive quality in a girlfriend because it gives this impression that, okay, I know she's not just going to go on a random night out and sleep with a random guy if we're like going through a rough period. That's what guys think about.
I mean, I don't think that's fair necessarily because I think as a single person, you can have your fun, but then in a relationship, you're very committed. I don't think it just suddenly translates into, oh, I've had an argument, I'm going to go and flirt with someone.
I'm not saying that it definitely does happen, but the person who is in our heads, and this actually goes for guys as well, right? From women to guys, the person who is more, how can I put this? Sexually open, we associate with higher risk of infidelity.
Yeah, but you can also find a contrast to that.
Of course you can.
Because I have had this in a relationship where I've been, I'm happy single. I'm very independent, happy being single. I have my fun and sort of thing. And he knew me when I was single. And then we ended up dating. And every time we had an argument, he would just always associate me with my single side. But once I'm in a relationship, I'm so committed. I like devote myself to them, not to devote myself to them, but they become my priority. I'm very much like looking after people. I'm an older sister. I kind of have that sort of instinct to sort of take care of people.
Yeah.
So when it comes to my relationships, I'm so dedicated within it. And a lot of the time, actually, when a relationship is broken down for me, it's because they haven't reciprocated that same effort.
Sure. I understand that. Completely fair. But within the first 2-3 days, a guy doesn't know you well enough to know that's true.
Yeah, fair enough.
Right? He doesn't know. So, you know, when you said that with that guy, it's like every time you went through a rough patch, she was thinking, fuck, I know what she's like single. She's going to go out and do this.
Yeah.
That's what guys think.
Yeah.
Because if a girl comes to me, she's like, hey, this guy, kid, you know, he's a bit of a player. He messes around and stuff. Do you know what I mean? And, you know, he kind of asked for a break for a month and he's flying to Brazil.
Yeah.
What's she going to think?
Yeah. Yeah. Valid.
That may not be true. He might be like, just because he's going on a break, that doesn't mean he's going to do it.
Yeah.
But in the early stages, as you're getting to know each other, it's all these different factors that build our perception of someone. Because you don't really know someone until like you're 3, 4, 5, 6 months in. Not really.
Yeah.
Because everyone puts their best foot forward, right?
Yeah.
So, and also as well, I'm not saying that you're not telling the truth, but everybody is going to say, no, when I'm in a relationship, I'm in it. Everyone's going to say that.
Yeah, true.
The person who is actually like that and the person who actually isn't.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So this is why, because as a woman, especially in the beginning, you have the power.
Yeah.
So it's about how do you use that in a way that serves what you want for your long-term goals. And, you know, like you've got a good head on your shoulders, you know, you're very rational. Do you know what I mean? Like you're very calm-headed. So personality-wise, I can't imagine guys would be like, oh no, she's not cool. But then I think are you dating in a way that serves the relationship that you want?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know sometimes, and I get how that seems difficult to hear because we've grown up in a society of sexual liberalism.
Yeah.
You can go do what you want, sleep with who you want, all of this stuff. And that's great. Everyone should have the freedom to do whatever it is they want to do. But there are ways to approach certain things depending on what we're looking for. Do you know what I mean? So if you're just looking for fun, friends and benefits, do your thing, go. Do your thing.
Nah.
Do you know what I mean?
I'm ready to find a relationship now.
Yeah.
So I'm taking all this on board.
100%. What's something else you want to bring to conversation, you want to ask?
I think just as a point of venting, really, I think
Go for it.
So dating, I think, in your late 20s is the trenches. Like, it is the absolute trenches.
Why is it the trenches, Amelia?
I think it's just become so tactical now. I think when you're in your young early 20s, like the dating pool is huge. You can just, everyone goes on a night out, you'll find someone to chat to, and it's become very easy. I think as we're shifting through our 20s, more people are getting into relationships. Maybe your friends don't always want to go out. And I'm now finding myself, I'm one of the few single people in my friendship group. So when it comes to me wanting to go on nights out, it's almost become, right, am I going to the right places to try and find people? Because a lot of the time my friends just want to go to the same pub every weekend.
Sure.
And I'm not going to be meeting the love of my life down the local pub.
Yeah. You never know, Amelia. You never
know. You never know. But it's now become a thing like, right, if I think I have one single friend, like, and when we go out, like, right, we've now got to think, where do we want to go where we think there are going to be good looking guys? And I remember we went on one night out to Tooting, and I told my friend there, and she's like, oh, you're not going to find a boyfriend there. I'm like, why can't I have fun in Tooting?
Yeah.
Or for instance, she was there, this same friend was like, have you got a membership to Soho House? You need to try and get to Soho House. I'm like, I'm not this is how I've got to try and find a husband now. I've got to be paying for a membership to Soho House to try and find, that's the only way. Or for instance, when people ask, are you dating anyone? I'm like, no, not at the moment. It's like, are you on the apps? Which apps? I'm on Hinge. She's like, have you got Raya? I'm like, yes, I've got Raya. They're like, right, okay. So they're the two. I'm like, okay, right. So I can't go to the local pub anymore. I've got to go to Soho House, and I have to be on Raya and Hinge. And that's apparently the formula to finding a boyfriend. But here I am 2 years later, still single.
I hear you. Okay. So I think there's elements of that is true, but I think they're over-representing how important it is in terms of finding a partner.
Sure.
So one, you can find a good man anywhere.
Yeah.
Right? You can find a good man anywhere. However, what I'd say is true is that depending on the kind of guy you're looking for, the environment is going to be significant.
Yeah.
So if someone says to me, okay, I want someone who's really creative, very passionate and, really uses that side of themselves, but you're in corporate and you're not in any creative environments, you're less likely to find any guy who's like that.
Sure.
So do you go to salsa bars and clubs? Are you going to cooking classes or, like art workshops, right? Because that's where you're going to find those kind of creative people. Do you go to the theater? Do you know what I mean? Equally, if you're saying, oh, I want a guy who, is incredibly, I don't know, let's say he's incredibly ambitious and he's very successful and, he invests himself in his growth. That's really attracted to me, very masculine leadership qualities. Okay, most of those guys, they're not at clubs Friday, Saturday night. They're working on their business, they're reading, they're investing in their growth. Where are they? They tend to be at members clubs, like Soho House, like Century, like whatever it is, right? So I think the environment does play a part. But generally speaking, if we're talking about just good men, there are good guys everywhere.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I've heard of rare, but usually, a lot of the time, you're matching with people who don't even live in the country.
No.
Do you know what I mean? You're matching with people who don't even
someone
live
who
in the
lives in
country.
Sydney. I'm like, you're no good to me.
Do you know what I mean? Because I guess it was supposed to be like a app for like celebs or like people in the media and stuff like that, people on the level.
Yeah.
So I guess there's this expectation of, we can travel internationally. It's fine.
Yeah.
But, and then I'd say with the apps, you can meet a great guy on apps. 50, I think it was as of 20, I think it was definitely from COVID, I think 2020, 2021. Like more than 50% of couples nowadays is from online dating.
I think it is now the most common way to meet people.
It absolutely is. But then this is about, okay, who are the guys you're choosing to go on a date with? And also, is your profile crafted in a way that attracts the kind of man and serious investment you want? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's part of that. But if I'm being honest, like if you're an attractive woman, you're going to get loads of matches. So it's just about recognizing the difference between sexual attention and romantic intention.
Sure.
So recognize the difference between, is this guy just trying to have fun?
Yeah.
Or is he actually open to investing in building something?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I said, with your one other single friend, what has she found in her experience?
Well, she's only become single like in the last few months, so she's only downloaded Hinge for the first time this week. To be fair, I do have another single friend, but she lives in Australia, so her dating life is just chaotic. Okay. She's just chaos.
Right.
So for her, with this other single friend, she's still finding her feet when it comes to dating sort of thing. I think she only kissed a guy that wasn't her ex for the
Right.
first time last week or 2
Oh
weeks.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think they broke up beginning of December.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
she just really got over the mourning period.
She's just about to get in the trenches.
Yeah. Welcome, sweetie. We've been expecting you.
You're like, come on down,
Come
baby. Come
on.
on.
Come
That's
join
so
me
funny.
down here.
What do you think is something that guys get wrong about you?
Get wrong?
Yeah.
What do people get wrong about me? I think when it comes to relationships, I think, as I said before, I'm quite happy taking care of someone, like sort of making them my priority. But don't mistake me for a mug. That I won't take you guys to not make the effort anymore, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can call it out. I can call bullshit from a mile away, and I will stop it and stop it in its tracks.
Yeah. What makes you go, oh, this person is not actually for me the way I thought they were?
I think what helps, not necessarily that I come to the conclusions on my own, because one thing I'm very good at is talking about my problems. Like,
Great.
I will talk about it, whether it's my mum, my friends. I'm like, right, just run me through this. Like, am I being weird here?
Yes.
And getting those opinions, and I do value them. But I think it's just sort of setting those standards. And I think, I can't remember where I saw it, but it was years ago, where if you're in a relationship with someone, and would you be proud if your child, say your son, inherited all of their qualities? And it's just like, that's when you then think like, oh no, he's doing this. I wouldn't be happy if my son was doing this, sort of thing. And that's kind of what keeps me in check.
100%. So yeah, I always say that, you know, for guys, choose a woman that you want your daughter to become, because she likely will.
Yeah.
Women, choose the man you want your son to become, because he likely will.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's the man he's learning from.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah, it's definitely so true. And did that change what you look for? Did that change the lens in which you were looking at certain guys you were meeting?
100%. Yeah, because I've had it now in 2 different relationships where I've had to break things off because they weren't meeting my needs. They weren't meeting up to my standards. They were dropping off. And it was getting to the point saying, oh, I wouldn't be happy if my son behaved. Not that wasn't necessarily my rationale, like, but it got to the point like, no, this can't run anymore.
Yeah. What do you think is the highest standard you have for a guy?
Highest standard for a guy? Oh my God. I think you need to be ambitious and need to have your own thing. You need to be, you need to be good on your own. You need to be good on your own. I find it weird when I see people jump from relationship to relationship, or they don't enjoy being on their own. Because I'm one of those people that whether I'm single or in a relationship, I'm happy. I'll find my happiness. Because that's one of the most liberating things I think about being single, is that you are responsible for your own happiness, however happy you make. Whereas I find in a relationship, what tends to be the case, and I'm guilty of it as well, that you then so become codependent on one another that if they're having a bad day, you inherently then have a bad day as well. And you then kind of share, you kind of, obviously you talk to one another, you share your emotions, and then that can sort of bring you down.
Sure.
So I think you need to remember, you mind yourself that they're not your whole life. They're a part of your life. And that's kind of where I then think you need to be good on your own.
Yeah.
Show me that you're good on your own, that you enjoy being on your own, that you have your own life, you have your own thing, you have your hobbies, and then we can meet in the middle and then enjoy each other's company and maybe share each other's hobbies.
If you're loving this episode and these kinds of conversations, then I want to give you something. We recently launched the Kits Angels community. This is a sisterhood for women who are tired of what the dating scene has given them and are ready to take their love lives to the next level. It's a space for you as a woman to not be alone in your journey to love, where we learn, talk, and share our experiences as part of a strong sisterhood, with some leadership and guidance from yours truly, of course. Not to mention never before seen videos from me on how I've led dozens of women to meeting great men. And so as a thank you for watching this episode, I'm giving you a month's membership completely complimentary on me. Just click the Kits Angels link below, and when you join the group, message me the code phrase Angels Podcast and I will pay for your membership. Now back to the episode.
Yeah. I hear that. And I don't disagree with that. I'm going to pose a question to you though. Do you think that because relationships are less of a necessity today, that why more people are single, we have less of them?
Less of a necessity
Mm.
in the sense that we are not as traditional as our parents, where like we kind of like, right, we find each other in our late 20s and we stick with that person, sort of thing.
I think, yeah, as in, so a lot of the time, the reason, and this is going way back, to be fair, it's just 700 years ago, but the reason we would couple up was because that was what was best for our survival.
Yeah.
We are more likely to survive if we are working as a team and we make this work.
Yeah.
Right. And then, of course, up until, the recent 100 years, okay, women could, of course, actually earn their own money, get equality, which is great, fantastic. But there was still an element of social expectation or like social, like if you were single after a certain point, if you hadn't, built a family, started contributing to the community, you would really feel that you weren't part of the community and society, right? Which I'm not saying that's a good thing, but that would encourage people to be like, okay, we have to make this work.
Yeah.
Right. Also, including, introducing divorce.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not necessarily saying that divorce shouldn't be a thing, but a lot of why a lot of marriages worked before was because divorce wasn't a thing. So I was like, look, you're stuck with me.
Yeah.
And I'm stuck with you. We've got 50, 60 years together.
Yeah.
Right. So we might be having these issues now, but we need to come to a point where we can make this work. And I think that because it's so easy, to leave, and because it's so easy to, when I say survive, not you shouldn't be able to survive on your own, but that's the word I'm looking for. I'm going to say survive on your own, be content on your own, because it's so easy to operate on a more individualistic nature today. I think that de-incentivizes people to challenge themselves to make a relationship work.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Hope you really enjoyed that clip. If you want to watch the full episode where that clip is from, then we need to click right here where you can watch the full episode. And if you're ready to claim your man today, enroll in my program below, and I'll see you there. Wishing you an amazing day.